Sports was all we knew. It was a way of life for us, really. Back then, we used to play sports for fun. Fairly early on, I thought I wanted to be a professional baseball player. My senior year in high school, I had a really good football season. I was an all-state player, and all of a sudden now I'm starting to get some interest from colleges. So that was part of the negotiations with colleges. Are you going to let me play baseball or not? The University of Missouri football coach there said, yes, we will let you play baseball. I played real well in football my last year of baseball at the University of Missouri. I had a phenomenal season. I hit over 400. I really did well, and I felt like I had to see the baseball draft through.
The Mariners at that time, we had so many great players. And everybody said, you know who Phil Bradley is? I'm like, Phil Bradley, the quarterback at Missouri? They go, yeah, we got him. I'm like, what? Nicknamed him Smoothie. He was so smooth, he just glided, he could just flow. His mannerisms was so cool, the way he carried himself, he was smooth as ice. So I immediately connected with him and we became pretty good friends. I think we had like almost 10 guys get called up. So Phil and I rode up together and we were playing the Yankees and he faced Ron Guidry.
And I get a base hit up the middle and I get to first base, and Ken Griffey Sr. was the first baseman. And he says to me, congratulations, I hope you get 2,999 more. I won't ever forget that.
And next thing you know, Phil's an all-star outfielder. And now the athleticism and power, the combination, he's one of the best players in all of baseball.
He was much more of a cerebral baseball player than so many of the other guys we played with. You start to try to either mentor or at least pick out someone who has a sense of what a representative should be, and Phil really stood out in that respect.
So much advanced maturity. Phil was always taking notes, he was always talking, he was always sharing his wisdom.
On August the 6th, 1985 was the day we went out on strike. The strike was called after the game, and we were told by Don Fear that after the game, both teams should meet in the clubhouse just to discuss the issue. Well, we were in Anaheim. Reggie Jackson, Doug DeCinces, John Candelaria, Rupert Jones.
So we had baptism by fire, man.
Just the intimidation factor of being a young player, being around all those players was a lot for me to take in.
So many of the players were, we're going out on strike, we've been on strike why are we doing it? What's it mean to me?
Rupert Jones was the only player that stood up on the behalf of the young players. All the rest of the older veterans wanted to know why they should go out on strike for us young guys.
Phil was always the one sitting in the meetings. He was willing to give it all up, understood it, and made it clear.
Well, 2 days later, the strike was over, and we started the season from there. What that did for me was form a mindset of, I will always fight for the young guy. That's what the owners feed off of. They try to divide and conquer. They try to figure out where they can drive a wedge in between the players.
The beginning of my admiration, for want of a better term, the strength he showed in not being reluctant at all to undertake the salary arbitration procedure.
The previous 2 years, I've gone through salary arbitration, and I had beaten the Mariners in salary arbitration. So they were probably, in their mind, paying me more than they wanted to pay me. From that perspective, it was about business. Unfortunately, I was traded away. I got traded to Philadelphia. They had an established team. They were just looking for someone else to fill out the lineup. So I get traded to Baltimore.
I mean, we're talking about a guy who, in my mind, was one of the best players in the big leagues. Yet he's finding himself bouncing from team to team to team. And he's a franchise guy that you should have built the team around instead of moving around. So to lose Phil was like, God, that was painful. I don't know if I still ever got over that. That was really painful.
I was on the negotiation committee. Negotiations went through the whole winter. We didn't get a deal done the winter of '89 to the spring of 1990. That was the beginning of the Super 2 class. We were able to get 17% of the two-year players' salary arbitration eligibility. We got the second trainer on each team, pension service. For years, minor league players had no out. And we were able to get it so that if you got outrighted twice in a season, you could become a free agent.
That 1990 negotiation may have cost Phil his career. He was so forceful and so tough on the owners that it gave rise to the notion that Bradley was being blackballed.
I didn't have a lot of opportunities to play in 1991 in the States. So the Tokyo Giants approached with an offer. So we accepted that offer to go play.
He was marked as a guy who would be dedicating most of his career to helping his fellow players.
Don reached out and offered me a job being a special assistant.
He's a good communicator. I mean, he can be quiet, but he will sit down, especially one-to-one. I think he's probably much better one-to-one, meeting with players, young players and older players alike, to make sure that they understand what he needs for them to understand and the Players Association's importance for them going forward. So all of those qualities he had as a player, I'm sure were extremely helpful, and he showed when he was working with the Players Association.
He was taking care of players. He always took care of players. It's all part of a mosaic, so to speak, of a life that he's dedicated to his fellow players.
My work has evolved over 25 years. As far as my overall job, Don was looking for former players to be a conduit between the lawyers in the office and the players in the stadium. And he was trying to bridge the gap, trying to bridge the miscommunication, and trying to improve the communication between the two sides, because those two groups would always come together every 5 years to form the collective bargaining unit.
You had no choice but to know who Curt Flood was. But his story was continually told because that was the foundation. That was the foundation of everything. Him taking a stance or getting traded and saying, no, I'm not going.
What the present players stand up for and work for through the Players Association generally doesn't benefit them as much as it benefits future players, and that was really the example that Curt set. Phil is every bit that person.
The notion of Phil Bradley winning an award named after Curt Flood has a certain kind of symmetry to it that is poetic. It makes perfect sense.
When I think of Phil getting the Curt Flood Award, I understand it. I mean, he walked, maybe not giving up everything that Curt did, but if anybody came close to understanding what Curt was going through, it was Phil Bradley. He understood the importance of free agency. He understood the importance of standing up for yourself and not being punished for it.
You know, I had my career, and I'm proud of what I did on the field, but that basically only impacted me. Being part of the union for all these years, I have had an impact on a group of players. Being part of this group and the things that this union has done over the years and the gains that they have made, it's very rewarding.
He's always been that father figure, and he stayed true to himself. Regardless of the battle, he knows who Phil Bradley is.
I wasn't there to speak for nothing more than the truth and for those who didn't have a voice at the table. As long as you have truth on your side, you can say what you want because you have truth on your side, and I think that's kind of how I was.
I'm really pleased to be able to be here and congratulate you on winning this prestigious award. And it is a prestigious award because it's only given to players who show not only great dedication to their fellow players, but who show courage in doing so.
Smooth one. You're so similar to Curt. I appreciate you standing up for the many fights and struggles that came along your way and for all of us to pay that way for us. The legacy is exactly that you have made the game better.
It means a lot. It means that I've done a good job for the union to acknowledge what I've done over the last 25 years, and I'm very honored to be part of this select group and to be attached to Curt Flood.